Thank you, Melissa. It's Faith Time, our weekly conversation on matters of faith. Normally these segments are live, but this morning we're on tape. Joining us this morning is Pastor Alan Floyd. He's the senior pastor at Cottage Hill Baptist Church. Thanks so very much for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Now, your topic that you wanted to talk about this morning is a very hard one to grapple with. It's the idea of Christians as separate from the world. How do you see that issue, first of all?
Yeah, I think it's a very difficult struggle that we are called by God, commanded by God, to be holy, to be separate, to live different lives than that of the world. Yet at the same time, we're called to be light to the world and to influence the world. So I think that we do that primarily through letting our light shine through good deeds, acts of kindness, communicating the love of Christ to the world around us.
And the concept really of being separate from the world, it's got to be a hard one for a lot of people of faith to grapple with, because on the one hand, you want to help. You want to have friends. You want to be friendly. But on the other hand, you also want to make sure that you're not tempted by the world. How do you run that fine line between not only helping the world, but not being tempted by some of the things that are out there?
Well, I think that we certainly cannot help but be tempted by the things of the world. We're always going to face temptations. We work out in the world. We may attend classes or school in the world. I think that we can't help but to be tempted, but it is our faith that keeps us from surrendering to that temptation, but yet continuing to live these holy, separate lives unto Christ, yet influencing them by acts of kindness, love, generosity, mercy, grace, those things, those same characteristics that we were given, we're to share with the world.
And when you talk about being separate, one of the things that I worry about or I think about is that you want to lead this holy life, but there's also this kind of other pull on you that says, I don't want people to think I'm a snob. I don't want people to think I'm a jerk. How do you do that? How do you maintain a holy life but also be kind and still be loving?
Right. Well, I do think that that the Word of God tells us that we are, in fact, a peculiar people, which we know that regardless, because we become followers of Christ, set apart, different, that we are peculiar to those out in the world. Why don't we tell the same jokes? Why don't we go to the same places? Why don't we do the same thing? So we are, in fact, a peculiar people that we can't avoid. However, I think that by simply being sincere, being authentic, then I think communicates something that beyond superficiality, that what we have, our faith is genuine.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge for Christians that are trying to live that sort of life?
I think probably the biggest struggle is the temptations, as we talked about a moment ago, from the world. Maybe it's from the activities, the entertainment, the movies. We do want to fit in. We don't want to be so much ostracized from those around us. So I think the struggle is, in fact, those same very temptations, and we don't want to be alone. We want to have friends. We want to have a community of faith, a community of believers.
Pastor Alan Floyd with Cottage Hill Baptist Church, thank you so very much for joining us for this edition of Faith Time and News 5 this morning. We'll continue after the break.